Imagine coming home exhausted after a long day, only to watch your partner cook dinner just for themselves, not even asking if you'd like some too. That's exactly what happened to our storyteller, and it became the moment that changed everything. Have you ever felt like you're living with a selfish roommate instead of a loving partner? Someone who treats the relationship like it's every person for themselves? Today's story might hit close to home for many of you. It's about a young couple whose relationship is falling apart over something that seems simple on the surface, a frozen pot pie. But as we'll discover, it's not really about the food at all. It's about respect, partnership, and what happens when one person decides they're done carrying all the weight in a relationship. Think about those small moments in your own relationships. The dirty dish left in the sink, the empty toilet paper roll not replaced, the laundry that somehow never makes it to the hamper. How many times have you found yourself wondering if you're overreacting to these seemingly minor infractions? Our storyteller is a 22-year-old woman who's engaged to a 25-year-old man, and she's reaching her breaking point after months of handling all the household responsibilities alone. Like many young couples, they started with dreams of building a life together, sharing responsibilities, and supporting each other through life's challenges. But somewhere along the way, those dreams began to crumble under the weight of unmet expectations and one-sided effort. What started as small inequalities in household chores has evolved into a pattern of deliberate selfishness that's making her question everything about their future together. This story perfectly captures how the little things, like who cooks dinner and who does the laundry, can reveal much bigger truths about our relationships. It's a wake-up call for anyone who's ever dismissed domestic inequality as just the way things are, or told themselves they're being too picky about their partner's lack of contribution. As we dive deeper into this story, I want you to think about your own relationships. How do you and your partner handle the daily responsibilities of running a household? Are you truly partners, or is one person carrying most of the weight? These questions might seem simple, but as we'll see, they often hold the key to understanding the deeper dynamics of our relationships. Just 5 months into their engagement, what started as a promising relationship began showing concerning cracks. Our storyteller, a 22-year-old working student, initially saw her 25-year-old fiancé as an equal partner. They'd talked about building a life together, sharing responsibilities, supporting each other's dreams. But within weeks of moving in together, those dreams started colliding with a harsh reality. She was excited about building their life together. Like many couples, they had discussed sharing responsibilities and creating a home as equal partners. He talked about cooking together, splitting the chores, and supporting each other. During their dating phase, he'd shown himself to be considerate and helpful, often offering to help with dishes when he came over to her place. But something changed after they signed that lease. The promises of partnership quickly faded into excuses. He'd come home from work and immediately retreat to his gaming setup, leaving dirty dishes in the sink and clothes scattered across the floor. She found herself picking up after him more and more, telling herself it was just an adjustment period. But days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, with no sign of improvement. Every time she tried to discuss the situation, he'd dismiss her concerns or promise to do better, only to fall back into the same patterns days later. As time went on, the inequality in their household became more pronounced. A situation many of you watching might painfully relate to. Our storyteller found herself working full-time while also handling all the cooking, cleaning, laundry, and grocery shopping. Think about that for a moment. Every single domestic task, large or small, had somehow become her responsibility by default. She'd spend her weekends deep cleaning their apartment while he played video games or went out with friends. Picture this. She's on her hands and knees scrubbing the bathroom floor while the sounds of his gaming session echo through the walls. The mental load became overwhelming. Keeping track of bills, managing appointments, and ensuring they had basic household supplies all fell on her shoulders. It was like running a small business, except she was the only employee. When she'd ask him to help with simple tasks like taking out the trash or loading the dishwasher, he'd respond with excuses about being tired from work or claiming he'd do it later, which never happened. Sound familiar? These weren't complex requests requiring special skills or training. They were basic adult responsibilities that somehow became her burden to bear alone. The pattern was clear. He was perfectly capable of taking care of himself when he wanted to, as evidenced by how he managed before they lived together. He could coordinate complex gaming strategies with his friends and organize weekend activities without any prompting, but he had simply decided that domestic responsibilities weren't his problem. It was a conscious choice, not an inability. She started feeling more like his mother than his partner, constantly reminding him of basic tasks and cleaning up after him like he was a child rather than a grown man. The emotional toll was immense. Each reminder, each ignored request, each solo cleaning session slowly chipped away at her respect for him and her satisfaction in the relationship. Ask yourself, how long could you maintain a romantic connection with someone you have to parent? Let's examine what this pot pie incident really reveals about their relationship dynamics. On the surface, it's about food. But dig deeper and you'll find 3 critical issues. 1. Deliberate selfishness. He consciously chose to only cook for himself. 2. Pattern of devaluation. This wasn't an isolated incident, but part of an ongoing behavior where he prioritizes his needs above hers. And 3. Weaponized incompetence. His suggestion to do everything separately is actually a manipulation tactic to avoid responsibility rather than work toward a solution. After a particularly exhausting day at work, our storyteller came home late, hoping to find some support from her fiancé. Instead, she walked in to find him cooking a frozen pot pie, but only for himself. When she asked if he could make one for her too, his response was shocking. "Make your own food. I'm not your personal chef." This was the same man who had watched her cook countless meals for both of them, who had eaten the lunches she packed, who had benefited from her grocery shopping and meal planning for months. The casual cruelty of that moment, watching him eat his dinner alone while she stood there hungry and tired, crystallized everything wrong with their relationship. It wasn't just about the pot pie. It was about his complete disregard for her well-being, his willingness to take care of only himself while watching her struggle, and his fundamental failure to be a partner. That evening, after the pot pie incident, our storyteller finally reached her breaking point. You know those moments when everything suddenly becomes crystal clear? This was one of them. After months of building frustration, watching dirty dishes pile up while her fiancé played video games, and constantly having to remind him about basic household tasks, she knew it was time for the talk. She sat down with her fiancé and laid everything out: the unequal division of labor, the lack of support, the constant dismissal of her feelings. She brought specific examples. The time she was sick with the flu but still had to cook dinner. The countless mornings she cleaned up his breakfast mess before rushing to work, and how he hadn't done a single load of laundry in 3 months. His response was telling, and honestly, it's one many of you might recognize. Instead of showing concern or remorse, he became defensive, claiming she was being dramatic and that if she couldn't handle the housework, maybe she wasn't ready for marriage. Let that sink in for a moment. He essentially equated marriage with being his personal maid. He even suggested that since she was so bothered by doing everything, she should just stop doing his laundry and cooking his meals. It was as if he was calling her bluff, never expecting she would actually take him up on that offer. But in that moment, something profound shifted in her perspective. Have you ever had that instant when the fog clears and you see a relationship for what it truly is? This wasn't just about household chores or who does the dishes. It was about fundamental respect and partnership. His reaction showed that he didn't view their relationship as a partnership at all, but rather as a convenient arrangement where she served as his personal housekeeper. This confrontation revealed something crucial that many couples face. When basic respect and equality are missing, no amount of love can bridge that gap. The pot pie wasn't just dinner. It was the final straw in a relationship where one person's needs and dignity were consistently overlooked. When our storyteller shared her situation on Reddit, the response was overwhelming and unanimous. Hundreds of commenters recognized the red flags in her fiancé's behavior, with many sharing their own similar experiences. Have you ever noticed how sometimes it takes an outside perspective to see what's been right in front of us all along? The community's response offered both warnings and practical solutions. First, they suggested documenting the division of household labor for 2 weeks, writing down who does what and how much time it takes. Next, they recommended having a serious conversation using "I feel" statements rather than accusations, and setting clear, measurable expectations for sharing responsibilities. One commenter described how her ex-husband started with leaving dishes in the sink, then progressed to expecting her to manage his entire life. To prevent this pattern, they advised establishing boundaries early by refusing to take on additional responsibilities that aren't yours. Create a chore chart, set specific days for tasks, and most importantly, stick to it. The community emphasized 3 crucial steps. First, communicate your needs clearly. Second, set firm boundaries and maintain them. Third, watch for actions, not promises. Give your partner a reasonable time frame to demonstrate change, but be prepared to make difficult decisions if the behavior persists. Remember, as one wise commenter put it, you're not just marrying who they are today, you're marrying who they'll become when they get too comfortable to pretend anymore. If you're facing similar challenges, start with these steps today and trust your instincts about what's acceptable in your relationship. In the end, our storyteller made the brave decision to end her engagement, a choice that would reshape her entire future. She realized that marrying someone who showed such little regard for her well-being would only lead to years of frustration and resentment. Have you ever had that moment when something seemingly insignificant becomes the catalyst for life-changing clarity? That's exactly what happened with the pot pie incident. What started as a simple request for dinner had crystallized years of problematic patterns. She began reflecting on countless other moments. The time he expected her to handle all holiday preparations while he played video games, the way he dismissed her career aspirations as just a job, and how he consistently prioritized his own comfort over their shared responsibilities. Each memory reinforced what the pot pie incident had revealed. The true nature of their relationship was one where she was expected to give everything while receiving nothing in return. As she packed her belongings and moved out of their shared apartment, she felt a complex wave of emotions wash over her. There was sadness for the future she had imagined, anxiety about starting over, but predominantly an overwhelming sense of relief in knowing she had chosen self-respect over settling for an unequal partnership. Friends asked if she was sure about throwing it all away over a pot pie, but she knew, and maybe you do too, that it's rarely about the incident itself, but what it represents. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that household responsibilities aren't just about chores, they're about respect, partnership, and the willingness to share life's burdens equally. When one partner consistently shows through their actions that they view the other as a servant rather than an equal, no amount of love can bridge that fundamental disconnect. Sometimes the smallest incidents, like a frozen pot pie, can illuminate the biggest truths about our relationships and help us make the decisions we need to make for our own well-being. The question isn't whether we can endure an unfair relationship, it's whether we should have to.